And we're live.
It's been a long, hard climb to the middle.
Oh boy.
Hmm.
I'm telling you. Well,
Well, but if you if you bend over to tie your shoelaces and you see a bunch of confetti and smell peanuts, you know the parade has passed you by, right?
yeah.
Well, it ain't passed me by yet. It's run over me a couple of times, but it ain't passed me by. I can still kind of do some things. Just most things. It's weird how when you're younger, there's a lot of stuff that you really, really want to do and you really enjoy doing and you have a lot of fun doing it. That when you get older, it just becomes a giant pain in the you know what. And it's like, I don't want to do that because then I got to do this, I got to do that. Going out in the boat. Oh, yeah, let's go out to the lake. Let's go jump in the boat and we'll go out and we'll fish and we'll swim and we'll do all this, that, and the other. Now my brain goes to, oh man, I got to tow that sucker all the way to the lake. Then I got to launch it. We can go out and have fun and everything, but now I got to recover the son of a gun, bring it home, and spend 2 days cleaning it up for the next trip. That's a pain in the butt. I don't want to do that.
I completely there's something to that situation because back in the day that would happen with other things, but I'll just mention one other example, just like
Hmm.
your boating outing.
Hmm.
Can I use ing twice?
Hmm.
Boating outing?
Why
The
not?
way I did? Huh? No, but I doubled up on the ing
Hmm.
I inged it twice. Um I don't know why it's um but something similar to yours, it's with music. I used to say, "Oh, I've got ideas in my head that need to be
Hmm.
put down and I'm going to record it." And so I'd bust out the recording stuff, I'd set
Hmm.
everything up and I'd rock and layer stuff and stuff. And I've since had ideas,
Hmm.
but then I think the same thing, like, man, I have to get that ready. Then I have to open up the program to realign all the different instruments. Then I have to decide, I have to play the instruments, but then I have to make corrections as I go in order to stack the sounds.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to write lyrics and order them so they actually make sense and record the vocals. When before it was just like light up the
Yeah.
fuse and watch the
Hmm.
firecracker explode,
Yeah.
and you'd go be off, doing your thing.
3 hours of prep for an hour of fun, and then another 6 hours of cleanup after you're finished. And it's like, what a giant pain in the you know what. No, I'm cool right here. You know?
Yeah, well, um, I think a lot of it has to do with us as we experience life. We know all the steps involved and all the pitfalls and such, and
Hmm.
good and bad. But we know, as opposed to before, there was mystery involved. So we jump in the car, and
Hmm.
the open road ahead was mysterious. But now, like, so for instance, I'll give you an example. It is true that if I got in my car now
Hmm.
and drove across America
Hmm.
to some destination just to see the heart of the country,
Hmm.
um, there would be stuff to view and it would be exciting. I have no doubt.
Hmm.
But a lot of it also would not be in
No.
terms of, I already know the so I've done road trips. It doesn't make
Hmm.
me professional. It's not like I'm a trucker, but the
Hmm.
point is that I've already had the experience caked on of doing that,
Hmm.
and so there's expectation. There's a level, but before you're innocent and anything's possible. So you're traveling into the great wide open,
Hmm.
like Tom
Yeah.
Petty said.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right. But even it also depends on the context of like the road trip because like for instance, about the last year, maybe just 6, 7 months that we lived in Georgia, and the whole time we lived in Hawaii, Linda and I would just go for a drive. Don't want to sit around and watch TV. We're not clubbers or going out type of people. We'd jump in the car and we'd go for a drive. 20 minutes, an hour, whatever. Just drive and talk. and just, maybe stop here and have, dinner out here, or go get an ice cream cone somewhere 10 miles away, just whatever, just to get out, BS, enjoy each other's company, and get out of the house, get some
Yeah.
fresh air, even though it's through the window of the car. But we haven't done that in a long time. I don't think we did it the whole time we lived in Nevada. And we got there in March of 98, and we left there in 2012. We've done it a couple of times here, but it's been years, because anymore it's just like, well, no, I've got my thing going on and she's got her thing going on, and we just don't make the time like we used to. I still don't sit and watch TV. But I mean, that got old when I was in my teens. I never was much for just sitting around in front of the tube, you know.
I mean, there were exciting times. I took a road trip with a friend of mine, um, and she and I went down to the Keys.
Mm-hmm.
I had been to the Keys, so the experience, but it was still new because you see it through the other person's eyes and stuff and whatever, and you're enjoying the company and reacting and this and that, and then you stop at all the little places and enjoy the view and stuff. And there's
Mm-hmm.
a historical, there's Hemingway's house, and it's
Mm-hmm.
really a nice experience and stuff. Um, there's new things to see every time you go, and it's an experience and stuff, and you're outing. But
Mm-hmm.
my but I'm the why did I the reason I'm saying that is for some reason or another. Now I'm thinking of Hemingway's five-toed cats. There was a, there was a reason. I guess I can't think of the exact thing. I guess it's the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's nice, but the getting there, the older you get, like even if it's that or some
Mm-hmm.
other place or even to the freaking mall,
Yeah.
um, it's like I hate to say this because I hate the saying. It's like been there, done that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I
It is.
but I hate that saying because we used to when I used to work in the Everglades, it was kind of like a badge of like I'm badass. So like they'd be fixing something and then the other guy turn around, yeah, been there, done that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, dude, are you serious? Like, but they used it like so. I don't like using it, but it applies in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've done it,
Mm-hmm.
and also the fact is that we live in an age where we have so much comfort at our disposal
Yeah.
without leaving
Mm-hmm.
our capsules. You know,
Now, I agree with everything you just said right there. Um, but there is something to be said for, even though you've been somewhere a million times, when you've got somebody with you that's never been there, never experienced it, doesn't know anything about it, taking them to do whatever that is,
it's exciting.
then that's a different story. Exactly. I mean, think back when Jamie Page came and visited you. I'm sure you did a few things that you would think are just regular, normal, everyday things, but Jamie had never been to Miami. He didn't know what to expect. He was looking for Don Johnson and the Ferrari.
And all he got was Compton.
Yeah, So,
Well,
it, but then again, it's kind of like driving Linda around here. I grew up in all this. I mean, I was born 7 miles away from where I'm sitting right now. So this is home to me, but Linda's never experienced most of this around here. So it's still kind of exciting to me to kind of take her around and show her the stuff that I'm used to, that I just grew up with.
no, I guess I don't want to emphasize too much. Like it would, even if I went now to the Keys, it would still
Mm-hmm.
be exciting because you're going to the Keys. And even though I've been there, done that,
Mm-hmm.
I guess thinking about it, this is a work in progress. What we're talking about, I guess thinking about it, it's the fact that what I said in the beginning, I think something to do with it, where all the prepping, we
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't consider it as much when we were younger.
Mm-hmm.
But now you think of all and potential hazards and
Yeah.
all the security procedures that need to be take place.
Yeah.
What can go wrong, and once you start stacking all the safety precautions and
Mhm.
all that's in our heads,
Mhm.
it kills the fun of it.
It depends on all the prep that you need to do. I mean, if we want to go for a ride, basically all we got to do is pretty much put on our shoes and walk out the door, you know. So that's no real big deal. But having said that, I now understand why old people wear Velcro straps instead of shoelaces because, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, tying your shoes is a pain in the butt. Once you've done it 10 million times, the novelty is worn off. Give me flip flops or slip ons or Velcro, and I'm a happy guy. I don't have any Crocs, but I do understand why people wear them.
Well, it's kind of like clogs in a sense, no?
Yeah.
I don't know. At this moment, I don't have an issue with tying my shoes
Hmm.
necessarily.
Well, I don't have
Uh,
an issue with it. It's just, I now understand why older people wore Velcro straps.
but you know what I do with my just as or I guess off of this shoe thing. You know what I do? Even if my shoes have laces on them, I pull them off without untying the laces. I grab them by the back,
Uh huh.
the ball of the shoe or
Uh
whatever,
huh.
and I just yank them off with the tongue
Mm.
and the laced up thing. And the next time I put them on, I just grab them and go flip.
Yeah, I can't have my shoes that loose. They ride up and down on my heel, and I get blisters and stuff like that. It bugs me to have my shoes that loose. So
Really?
yeah, I'm the guy that unties them and then kind of loosens them up, pulls them off, and all that other
And
good
how
stuff.
tight do you tie your shoes?
Fairly tight, you know.
So you've got like these gripped
Well,
things.
no, I mean it's not like they're cutting off my circulation or anything like that, but they're laced up snug. I mean that was something that came from the army. You tightened your boots up and you tied them up nice and tight. Otherwise, they'd slip on your heel and you develop blisters. You know, or slip on your feet and develop blisters. And I'm not a fan of that. So I've always just basically kept my shoes real snug. But I've had foot problems since I was born. So I was in corrective shoes until I was 5 years old because I had flat arches.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I guess the thing that you started with the all the prepping, because you did start with
Mm-hmm.
the thing, and we've gone down that route. Maybe I'm overstating my part of what I think. There's still cool
Well,
things,
mm-hmm.
but even while I'm saying there's still cool things, I'm not gonna lie. The ideal comfort place is right here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I need to run into town tomorrow, and I've been putting that off for 2 days, but I got to do it tomorrow. And it's like, I don't want to go. I just don't want to go. It's a pain in the butt. I got to go out there, and it's the king of first world problems. I have to get in my climate controlled car, drive into town, go to one store, get back into that climate controlled vehicle where it's nice and warm, and I got a radio, and come home and come back in the house. You know, 25 minutes at the most. But in my head, it's a giant pain in the butt. It's a polar exploration that I got to prep for, and it's going to be an arduous journey. I don't know if I'm going to come under sniper fire or what. But that's
Yeah.
how I gear it up in my brain. I don't want to do it. So I'm thinking of excuses on how I can not do it, but I gotta. So.
We don't want a Red Dawn scenario at this age. Maybe when we were younger, like back in the day, but with the parachute, like let's say
Mhm.
you're driving into town, and for some reason you're driving, and then you see these parachutes, they're slowly coming down, and you're like, oh well, crap, it
Yeah.
had to happen now.
Back in the day, it would have been, oh man. Now it's like, oh crap. Now what? Jim's saying a nap is always a good alternative. Yeah, but see, I'm I'm not opposed to naps. I'm not opposed to naps. The problem is I I can't just lay down and take a 10 or 20-minute nap. I can't do that. I've tried my entire life and it doesn't work. If I lay down to take a nap, it's going to be 3, 4 hours. And then my whole sleep cycle's off. I can't do a 10 or 20-minute nap. I wish I could.
Yeah.
So
10-minute naps. I mean, how do you go into that without going into deep REM sleep? I mean,
yeah,
it's like,
I can't do it, man. I can't do it. Now I wish I could because I see the value. I know the value. It's just not me.
let me just say this though, with all that, I don't know about you guys out there, but it used to be that I could go to bed,
Hmm.
watch TV for a solid hour or two in bed,
Hmm.
and eventually conk out.
Hmm.
For the past few years, I turn on, the TV, lay down, and I'm literally within the first 7 to 10 minutes, I'm done. I'm
Yeah,
all I
I
have to do is horizontally lay,
I
and
think I'm the one that started all this back in the green room. Eloy and I were talking while we were waiting for time to come, and I said something about how my sleep pattern got off last night. I could not fall asleep to save my life. The way I describe it is my brain is doing the Macarena. And because I'm just thinking about stuff. I mean, I get an idea in my head and it just boom, bitty, boom, bitty, boom, bitty, boom, bitty, boom. It just keeps multiplying and it won't calm down so I can go to sleep. And I'll grab my old phone and I'll play solitaire or something like that to occupy my mind, but it didn't work. It just kept going.
but
So the result of all this was I didn't fall asleep till like 4 in the morning, and then I didn't wake up until after 10:30 this morning. And to me, that just screws up the entire damn day. It everything that I was going to have done before 8 o'clock now just got set back. And by the time I get caught up with where I should be at around 1 or 2 in the afternoon, it's dinner time. And it's like, son of a bitch.
yeah,
So, yeah,
um,
I just can't do it anymore. And so now I don't know what the hell's going to happen. I got up at 10:30, quarter to 11 this morning, something like that. And I don't know what time I'm going to go to bed, but I'm tired now. And I don't know how much of this is just aggravation or just plain pissed off.
well, there's no
So
one really to necessarily impress one way or the other,
that's true.
and we're in charge of our. And so if you go, if the train derails
Hmm.
or hops to another lane and your time scheduling is slightly off, the way I've looked at it, and I said that before, and I think you're on the same page. I mean, it's like at the same time,
Hmm.
um, well, what the heck? That's what you needed at the time, or by no fault of your own or partly fault of your own, it's the hour change that you're going through. So I just embrace, as opposed to fighting it,
Hmm.
I'll just basically just say, okay, well, this is what this. Okay, fine. This is what this is, until I correct it again, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Steve says, I find naps easy. Just turn on trampled talking music and I'm out. Don't threaten me with a good time, Steve. I can arrange that.
Yeah, we can. We're prepared. We're easily prepared for that one, Steve.
Exactly.
We could do that standing on our heads.
Dan Haryu says, I went to bed early last night, then woke up at 4:30 a.m. What a dumb idea that was. See, that's usually me. Usually I'm in bed by 9:30 and I'm up at 6:30, 7 o'clock, something like that. But last night I just couldn't get my brain to calm down.
The
And I
early
hate that.
bird catches the worm.
Yeah, but who wants a worm? You know, I've
What
got
is it? One in
I've
two
got
in your
bagels and Pop Tarts and stuff like that. I don't need no damn worms.
one in the hand is better than two in the bush,
Something like that.
or something similar to that saying.
Hmm. So, oh man.
I've noticed Dan Harju has slightly. I don't want to overstate this. Has slightly. I've seen signs in his writing, um, both in private, which I won't discuss today, but both in private and publicly, where I'm seeing slight signals of subtle unhingedness that I can't quite grab onto. No, but there's a notable different uh, timber timber in his and the things that he mentions. I don't know what dark corridor of the internet conspiracy world he might have jumped into, or what sort of thing, but something. I might be overstating this,
You
but I'm
might just
mentioning it.
slightly. Have you eliminated the possibility of lacquer fumes?
Of what?
Lacquer fumes
Lacquer fumes can do
from
such
from
things.
being in the wood shop all day, 24/7. Well, almost 24/7.
Did have you changed? Have you have you switched out?
Jim
these-
Dockrell says he's Finn. It's winter. It happens.
Have you switched out lacquer thinners in recent months? Brands?
I think it's quite possible he's mixing it with orange juice now.
In any event,
Well, that's what happens when you put a person from when you put a Finnish person in Massachusetts with no sauna. That's what happens. So,
I saw a movie from Massachusetts starring, I forget the name, but starring Johnny Depp,
mm,
where he used prostheses and what all this stuff. They made his hair blonde and thinned and comb back. They gave him a different look and stuff. They made him like an Irish guy from, and the movie was about an Irish trafficker
mhm,
in Boston. It's really incredibly. It's about the Italian. It's about the Irish mafia.
okay.
Kind of like that kind of world back in the '70s and this and that.
Then Haryu says, "Yeah, he was Whitey Bulger."
Yeah, that's the one,
Okay. Don't
dude.
know the name of the don't know the name of the movie, but I heard about it.
Dude, it was such a great movie.
Mhm.
Um, no, it wasn't Snatch the movie. It was the one that Dan said. Jim Dockrell said Snatch the movie. And by the way, on the same note, just for the heck of it, because uh, Black Mass. Black Mass is the name of the movie. In my opinion, it's a good movie. And Snow Crusher, in order to get Snow Crusher to say anything is good publicly, without some sort of curveball thrown in, is a big one. So I, I would. That's a good what do you call it? Recommendation.
Yeah.
I'll just say, because you're even hearing it from Snow Crusher, and that's not an easy one.
You sure it's not? You sure it's Snow Crusher, not a Nigerian prince?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think he's saying it because he
Hmm.
means it. Um, I definitely agree. It's a little bit, Mark. If you ever get a chance to see it and you're interested,
Hmm.
it's a little bit it's hurtful in a sense, in terms of like the life that the conditions that they existed in,
Hmm.
that community of people, um and the effect of that kind of stuff happen occur, affects their loved ones, let's say. Like if
Hmm.
you're into criminality
Hmm.
and you're taking your whole family along for the ride, and all this and that, that's kind of like a, but whatever, they did things to survive, and I'm not saying it's right or it's a good movie, but it's a little bit dark, let's say.
Hmm.
But Irish note,
Hmm.
on a side Irish note, I saw um Who Do You Think You Are series with Boy George,
Okay.
the musician. I don't know if you've seen it.
It's funny you mention it because I was looking at Who Do You Think You Are the other day, and I watched one with Danny Dyer, who's a British actor. Found out he's a direct descendant of King Edward III. But I saw the clips from the Boy George episode. I never watched it, but I saw that.
I'll just say this: I watched the whole thing,
Hmm.
and oh boy, um, talk about an Irish history.
Hmm.
It's his family's history,
Hmm.
but I don't want to give it. Well, if you watch it, you watch it in the people. But basically,
Mhm,
his family was in one of those rows of houses, tenement sort of,
mhm,
where a bunch of people lived in the same. And his great grandmother, something like that, was orphaned or something like that. And why
mhm.
was she? It turns out that one tragedy stacked up on top of the other,
Yeah,
to where one of his great grandparents was an Irish, pro Irish, in the early 20th century,
yeah.
um, like the early beginnings of the,
Irish Republican Army.
yeah, early,
Mhm,
and he was busted
mhm.
and got hung.
Yeah.
And they take him step by step. They even take him to the room
Mhm,
that's this two-story open air room with the plank and the whole 9 yards. And but the whole story, they find pictures and stuff. It just stacks up into like literally like an Irish, like what you would expect from the tragic history of Irish people.
mhm.
And he had no clue about all of it.
Right.
He was just Boy George growing up in England somewhere.
Mm. Yeah. Mhm.
And he did, I mean, he knew he was Irish, but like, you get my point. Like, he didn't
Yeah.
know the backlog history of all that crazy stuff. And his like, you could see that every step of the way he's like, what the hell? Because it
Yeah.
gets worse and worse, Mark.
There's been a few episodes with various different people along those same lines where it just goes absolutely crazy off the deep end where you know great great grandfather died in World War I, or was a deserter or something like that, and just tragedy upon tragedy and murders in the family and things like that.
Yeah.
It was just absolutely nutso.
I was talking earlier with a cousin of mine. We share the same last name.
Hmm.
She lives in Spain. I live here. But we come from the same seven brothers.
Yeah.
I come from one of the seven brothers. She comes from, um, and she asked a question that I had the answer to, but she gave me some other extra information. And just to parallel about tragedy, if I look at the history of my family,
Hmm.
it's literally a series of tragedies.
Hmm.
Um, because the seven siblings in Spain lost their mother
Hmm.
when they were in their late teens. Some of
Yeah.
them in their early teens.
Yeah.
And then the father 3 years later after the mother. And so they were orphans living in this town next to a river that opens up into the Atlantic
Hmm.
or Bay of Biscay. And they were just early teens and
Kids.
20s.
Yeah.
And there were, well, it ended up that there were six of them, because the first one died when young. Then the older sister had to take care of the kids. And what they did was, in order to solve for this, some of the collateral family would help out. I don't know details, but they did help out.
Hmm.
Like, I know they paid for schooling and such and this and that.
Yeah.
But what they did was that they basically sent the kids off. You either became a priest,
Hmm.
either you had some sort of gig,
Hmm.
or you became a priest because that would give you food and
Yeah.
sustenance and service, or join the military, or you were sent to Cuba.
Hmm.
And many in my those so my grandfather was sent to Cuba, his uncle was sent to Cuba, his other uncle was sent to Cuba, and everybody went to Cuba. And some of them stayed because they had prospect of land and cattle, and but
Yeah.
the other ones were sent out when they were little, because there was literally no way, as far as I can see, for them to make a living. So it was a tragedy. They lost their parents. My grandfather is born and loses his mother at a young age as well, and then he loses his father in his 30s, and it kept rolling till
Hmm.
my time. And in my time, I lose my parents when I'm still in my first in my early 20s, and then in my 30s with my father. So
Yeah.
it's been one constant uh, uh, situation, and plus the fact that they left Spain to Cuba and then Cuba to United States because Cuba was taken over by this dictatorial thing. Um, it's basically
Yeah.
it's not similar to the what's his name, the Boy George, but it's similar in that there's tragedy occurring across
Yes.
time.
Yeah. It's all over the place and in all kinds of different directions. I mean, same thing with the background of my family. If there's fires where buildings were just there were people were burned out. They're literally, not figuratively. Oh man, I'm burned out. No, talking about the whole place is on fire. Get the hell out. That kind of thing. Floods. A flood wiped out the entire homestead, took house, barn, animals. No kids, thankfully. But I mean, all kinds of tragedies like that. A riverboat accident and one drowned. Just you name it. And each one of those steps led people in a different direction. You know, uh, some of there were some things that were absolutely fantastic. There are other things that were absolutely tragic, and they all funnel down to here we are. You know, and if any of those events hadn't happened, who can say whether we'd be here or not?
Oh no, no, I don't use that term of who's to say if we would. I
Uh-huh.
would say we would not, because there's
Probably
only
not.
one, right, because there's only one way that we're here, and it's
Mhm.
because of all that came before
Right.
in just the way that it did. I mean,
Yeah.
alternate universes aside,
Mhm.
you know, what is and what was is what was, and I'm always surprised. And that's why I like those shows. Like, and by the way, in case no one has seen the Boy George one, and but will maybe, it starts off, you would think, oh, it's just this actor guy, and that's what I kind of thought. I put it in the background and while I was working on my ancestry thing, but I'm listening, and all of a sudden they're saying stuff that's like, whoa, like, because it starts off chip chip, it starts off because it's Boy George,
Mhm.
he's fantastical, but it gets real, it really, dude, it views like a freaking Irish blues or folk song
Mhm.
of like step by step, just going catering,
Mhm.
cratering down.
Mhm.
I was blown. I couldn't. Let's put it this way. I liked Boy George before, like Culture Club. I thought that
Mhm.
that was cool. I mean, he's kind of weird, but even back then,
Kinda.
like, well, yeah, um, but it can't be denied. The guy, his I have even more respect now,
Mhm.
just aside from the music thing, because the history, you could write a movie, dude.
Yeah. Well, there are,
Boy
and
George.
that's something people keep talking about how Hollywood has run out of ideas. I say BS. There are some great stories out there that would make fantastic movies if people could be bothered to just look. Stop looking at the things that have already been successful once. Start looking at other things that, because there are stories out there, like his story, you know, that could be a movie
Oh,
easily.
it's, yeah, like a family um odyssey type thing.
Yeah, that easily could be a movie, and any snapshot in time from his life could be its own separate movie.
Dude, they lived in a little room in somewhere in London
Hmm.
that was like, I mean, oh, they even took him to the prison where his great grandfather was being held,
Hmm.
and he goes inside the room, and dude, it's like, it's just, you're seeing it like what you said before. You're seeing it through his eyes as you're
Yeah.
seeing it for the first time yourself,
Hmm.
and there's something special about that because it's special because it's his story that's being unpacked.
Yeah.
Um, dude, it was so good, dude. It was so. It started off a little bit slow, kind of like you think to yourself, "Oh, this guy, what can be interesting?" No, it's so interesting. It's so crazy, dude. I
Yeah.
was blown away. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't say enough about it, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it
I
was
mean,
depressing. It was depressing, though.
well, no doubt. I mean, it's not the kind of it's not a feel good story for sure. You know.
Yeah, the Irish went through hell, dude.
Oh yeah, definitely. The
The,
Scots and the Irish both. I mean, they were basically starved almost out of existence.
did the same thing happen to the Scots?
Not on that. Well, there's actually fewer of them, so not on that grand a scale. But basically, when you are run out of your home by the king's troops, and then your house set on fire with you standing there watching it, you know, and they're saying, "Get off the land." No, go, go. And they did that in huge swaths of land, just drove people out of the area so they could run sheep because that was more profitable than the crops they were raising. I mean, it wasn't a genocide, but it was close to it. Look into the Highland clearances. It wasn't like the famine that hit Ireland, but it was again on a smaller scale. So because
Yeah,
there's simply fewer of them. But there
yeah,
were rebellions all over the place, and there were wars and everything else. So and political intrigue at every turn.
yeah. There's a lot of a lot of people from the outside, unless they there's a lot of historical conflict in the
Hmm.
British Isles amongst themselves in ways that like some people might think that, oh, it's all the same. Like there's a clip, and we've talked about this similar things in the past, but there's a clip about an actor,
Hmm.
and he's being interviewed by a guy that interviewer that over a movie that they're filming, and it says, "So yeah, because you guys the English," and he says, "No, I'm Irish," and then he repeats, "Oh yeah, but yeah, you know what I mean," and
Yeah, it's a good way to start a fight.
and the actor says, "No, I don't know what you mean.
Hmm.
I'm Irish." He says, "No, because there's a history there, but to the guy, the interviewer,
Hmm.
it's just the British Isles, so it's all the same
Hmm.
thing, but there's a history involved in it. Um,
Yeah,
he's just not aware of the sensibilities that occur
and the
in."
sensitivity involved in something like that. I mean, there are real quick ways to get your ass beat, and that's one of them. Call a Scotsman Irish, call an Irishman English, call a New Zealander Australian, or call an Australian British. That's a real easy way
Yeah,
to start a fight and probably get your ass whipped. Yeah, Jamie, I knew he would jump in. British Isles are all the same thing. Ouch. Yeah, right. I mean, no, it ain't. No, it ain't.
yeah. Well, you know that's what happens when there's the nuance is missing,
Mhm.
and so it happened live in that clip of that
Mhm.
interview for a movie, and he was very adamant to say, and the other guy was so oblivious,
Yeah.
even when being told it,
Uh-huh.
that so yeah, it's localized things, but it's had a history and a half.
Yeah.
The British Isles have.
Oh, by God. Oh, yeah, easily. Well, I mean, there's 1,000 years of written history that they know of, and they're finding new stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
over 1,000 years. Who am I kidding? But I mean, the stories are out there, and I know I'm kind of taking it back a few steps, but it is the truth. We're talking about how Hollywood is always, well, they keep remaking the same movie over and over and over and over and over. I mean, how many Batman and Superman movies do we got? And they
I
got
could
more coming,
I
you
could
know.
stand at least two more Batmans and three more Spider-Mans, just for that extra little
But
punch.
but there are so many other stories out there. Have you ever heard of Virginia Hall?
Who?
Virginia Hall. In World War II, she was known as the Limping Lady. She grew up a tomboy. Her dad taught her how to shoot and all this other stuff. But she was from a very well-to-do family. And what she ended up, and I don't remember exactly how she ended up doing it, but she wanted to be a diplomat. She wanted to be an ambassador. And at this time, it's like, no, women aren't ambassadors. And she was she was sent to, I think, Poland, and she worked at an embassy there, and she tried to apply for certain appointments, and they would lose her application and things like that. She had an accident, and while out hunting with some friends, she had an accident. Shotgun went off, blasted her leg, and they ended up removing her leg, her lower leg, right at the knee, and fit her with a prosthetic. She was later sent to another country to work in the embassy there, and it was she got used to her prosthetic and everything else. She wanted to then France got invaded. World War II kicked off. She wanted to do something for the war effort. They're like, well, you're one legged. What are you going to do? She went to France under the cover of as an American reporter, and basically set up a spy network. Then proceeded to hook up with and it's not like she parachuted into France and then met up with her contact and she got together with a bunch of people from the underground. No, she went into France by herself, able to speak the language, and just basically bumped into people and became one of the most feared spies in German occupied France during World War II. The British found out about her being over there. They started supplying her with stuff, and she kind of hid out and everything, but she became known as the Limping Lady, and the Gestapo were on her tail. One of the first things she did was she hooked up with a gynecologist who didn't exactly like the Germans during that time. And she talked him into giving the prostitutes with an STD at this certain brothel, give them a clean bill of health, and she would make sure all the Nazis went to that brothel.
Damn.
She was fighting the war from the inside, literally. All right.
Tip of the spear sort of thing.
Exactly. She ended up with like this 15-person group. They parachute in a wireless radio and they would send messages back and forth. This woman was an absolute terror. Well, they finally got onto her, figured out who she was. Her spy network was broken up, and her British handler said, "You got to get out of there. You got to get out of there." So the only way she could get out was she had to go over the Alps and into Spain.
I think I
She's
saw that. I think I saw that movie now that you're saying it.
she's got a wooden leg
No,
that
but in that movie, oh, go ahead, continue.
she named this leg Cuthbert. Well, she's still sending messages back and forth to England, and she said, "I'm making it, but Cuthbert is giving me trouble." The British had no idea who the hell Cuthbert was. And they said, "Well, if Cuthbert gives you problems, eliminate him." And she's like, "No, this is my wooden leg." She made it over the mountains, got to Spain. Of course, she was immediately arrested for an illegal border crossing. They figured out who she was, sent her back to England. The She said, "I want to go back." And the Brits are like, "No, you're not going back in. They know who you are. They're looking for you. All this stuff." No. She's like, "Okay, fine." She goes back to the US, meets up with Colonel Donovan, who is the head of the OSS, And he's like, sure, we'll send you back. The OSS is the precursor to the CIA. She spends some time getting healthy, learning how to run the radio better, learning this, learning that, learning the other. They send her back in to France, where she spent the rest of the war running another group of the resistance, blowing stuff up and, just causing major havoc to the Germans. And while she was over there the second time, they're like, look, they know what you look like. They're looking for you. They can tell the sound of your wooden leg while you're walking around. You stand out like a sore thumb. Well, about that time, over the years while she was gone, shoes were in short supply. People started wearing wooden clogs. And now her walk didn't sound out of place. She sounded just like anybody else. She would dress up like an old woman and just blend in.
Damn.
She caused havoc, I mean, like crazy behind the lines. The war's over, everything's great. While she was in France, she met the guy who would become her husband. They came back to the States and she worked within the CIA until about 10 years before her death. She died of natural causes, old age, basically. She was given the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the highest honor a civilian can get, but she wanted it done in a private ceremony. She never wanted anything to get out. She wrote her memoirs over the course of her life, but never wanted it to get out. And it was only after her death, one of her children went ahead and released it, and it became a book. She needs a movie about her life. That story it's a real story.
I think I've seen a movie that's similar to that.
They may have taken elements of her story out of it,
Yeah,
but I've
I think they there's a movie, I don't know the name, but I did see it and I found it compelling. And the lady was in a French hotel.
mm-hmm,
She's a rich, you know, lady from the U.S.
mm-hmm,
and she was meeting people that were helping her um, get people out of France, and
mm-hmm,
they would cross the Pyrenees
mm-hmm.
into Spain in order to get them out.
Yeah.
So there's similar elements to what you're saying.
She didn't do that. She basically um, developed spy networks over there and
That's what I'm saying.
ran. She didn't really, I don't know that she evacuated people. She might have,
No,
but
no.
base.
In the movie, it sounds similar because of
Mhm,
those aspects. But
mhm.
this lady had contacts in there, and she was doing
Yeah,
all the. But she was the daughter of a rich. I guess maybe it was an adaptation or an
it's
invention,
possible.
completely, totally original invention in there. Who knows?
It's possible. But
But it reminded me.
I know that her story didn't get out until either the 70s or the 80s because she did not want any of this to become known because she still worked for the CIA. She was still basically undercover, even though most of her work was done in the office. She didn't go out to the field anymore. She was considered too old and too well known by the wrong people. But, and she's just this unassuming, looks like a grandma. You would not be surprised if you met her and she offered you a plate of cookies and a cup of hot chocolate.
Yeah, you
But
don't know.
one of the most badass spies of World War II, you know?
Yeah, you don't know who's who.
No, you don't.
Like currently, without a doubt, because they have been found out across Miami's history.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's no shortage now with the population. Although I'm speaking broadly, but there's examples. Miami's infested with spies.
Oh, yeah.
So is and without saying a specific thing, and so is the rest of the United States. And there and those and many of these people that are spies. And by the way, in terms of spies, um, there's a history here. and
Oh
it's
yeah.
very direct. Like it's very direct, and that's why a lot of people here always blow the horn, saying, "Hey, hey." It rarely gets out, but people here are constantly saying there are people that are planted here
Hmm.
that appear and speak and interact as if normal.
Hmm.
Like, of course, this person's a upstanding um,
Hmm.
American or an upstanding Cuban American,
Hmm.
or an upstanding Cuban, older generation or whatever,
Hmm.
when they've been placed. And then there's counter spies too, of course. So there's regular old
Oh
people,
yeah.
um, but the stakes are high,
Mhm.
um, and it's not only here; it's
Oh, it's
every.
all over the world.
They found a Puerto Rican in the Pentagon. You can look up, anybody interested. You could do some searching. It's easy to find. It's like in the Pentagon, working a desk job, collecting information for the Cubans.
Hmm.
Maybe a decade or so ago, they found two, I think. Here, right here across the street,
Hmm.
Tamiami Trail into the university,
Hmm.
a professor that was a spy.
Yeah. The thing about this subject, though, is the minute you say that word spy, there is automatically an eye roll, and people start thinking you're just paranoid. But folks don't realize how real it is. You'd be naive to think that companies, especially companies with the Defense Department contract or aerospace engineering or something like that, you'd be naive to think that there aren't people who have been more or less planted there.
No, no, I
You
can
know,
basically. It's not even a secret. Like
yeah,
you could go online and unpack the history of spying, Cuban spies in Miami and the United States, just on that subject alone. You can unpack that and see that
hmm,
it wasn't written yesterday prior to this
yeah,
episode of Trampled Underfoot podcast. It's across decades into
hmm,
the past century where people have been busted because they've been collecting that. And another thing that they do, that these people do, and there's other things that we don't know of, but another thing that they do is that they come here. Oh, see what?
there it is. There's the you're talking about the Puerto Rican lady right there. Anna, you read it. I don't. I'll butcher the name.
Well, Anna Beleng Montes, born February 28, 1957, is a former American senior analyst at the Defense Intelligence Agency in the United States who spied on behalf of the Cuban government
For
for 17 years.
17 years. Yeah. I mean,
So, another thing that they do, because people also, just like you said, when people will roll their eyes when you say about spies,
spies. Yeah.
people will roll their eyes also. So, the Cuba thing is a problem.
Hmm. Well,
But
they all
people
are.
but people roll their no, no, no. The
Yeah.
Cuba thing is a problem, and people roll their eyes at that too because they think, oh, it's an island. Maybe they don't even look at the map to see how close and distant. They don't understand the potential um, avenues that are constantly being used. But there are
Hmm.
people here, like
Hmm.
they'll say, "Oh, it's an island. It's over there, and America's strong, and everybody else is." But that's not the analysis, because
Hmm.
all it takes is a couple of people doing bad things within
Yeah.
the contiguous. So there's more to that. But what I wanted to
Well,
say is, what I wanted to say is that they'll also do in part of this whole bit, and
mhm.
it's big time. Part of this whole bit is that they'll come lay out a lifelong habitual that appears normal to include opening businesses,
Mhm.
and those businesses are basically ways of extracting money from the US out.
Hmm.
They're legitimate to a point because the front facing this and that and the other, but the it's a tool
Hmm.
to extract.
Yeah.
It's a tool to extract all sorts of things.
Well, yeah. And I mean, this woman here, she was a senior analyst at the Defense Intelligence Agency. Lord knows what she sent them. Or she doesn't even have to send them. An intelligence analyst takes information and does, as the title says, analyzes and collates all this information and sends a conclusion. How many wrong turns did we take because she filled people full of BS? Or just dropped one key piece of info and sent folks on a wild goose chase, or tempered something down so it sounded like no big deal. You don't have to be giving information to have an effect. You could just omit a couple of facts and suddenly the whole storyline changes. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Well, I mean, so there's a lot of stuff that on a regular basis, like I grew up hearing things, but I'm living my American life, but my father is involved in what he was involved in,
Hmm.
and I have the receipts to show that he
Yeah,
was involved in, to the extent that I can show,
right.
because
Some of it's still classified. Yeah.
there's stuff that I or that I'm not even aware of,
Hmm.
that he kept quiet because he never really much, unless he was pressed on it or I brought
Uh-huh.
up the subject. Other than that, he'd say nothing. But like, um, it's real, and
Hmm.
this place is a hub for all that kind of stuff.
Right.
There's good people that have nothing to do with that,
Sure.
but the bad people, and we're calling bad people that are trying to infiltrate in order to
Hmm.
manipulate the system here.
Yeah.
It was spies for the other government. That's
Sure.
what. So they, because for them, they're not bad people.
Yeah.
For them, they're like national heroes and stuff like that. But you see the
Yeah.
dichotomy of
Exactly. For every good guy, bad guy story, it just depends on who, which point of view you're taking.
yeah. So for them, it's like, oh well, you've done a great thing. Well, but so one thing that happened in the '90s was that, because like for instance, for like me,
Hmm.
um, it's difficult because I've run into problems with friends online
Hmm.
that don't quite get the the nuance. So like me, I'm born in the United States. I'm an American. I'm an American citizen. Um, full stop, and that's where it ends. I
Hmm.
have a history like any other human being. Some Americans come from France a generation or two ago. Some people are like yourself that have long-standing, generationally. Others not so much. Some people in between, and the and so there's all that.
Hmm.
Okay, well, um, but just 2 decades ago, Americans died of Cuban parents, um, because they were attacked by the Cuban government while flying missions to pull people from the
Hmm.
ocean, on a mission. It was called the Brothers to the Rescue flights. Um, they were guys like myself, just a generation or two before me,
Hmm.
that were born in the U.S. Some of them weren't, but some of them were. They were Americans, American citizens, and they were shot in this. Now they were going to help with information, like rescue people and stuff, like if the waterways or whatever, to rescue people, because
Hmm.
people were coming
Yeah.
drown. It says a lot about a country if your citizens are jumping in the ocean to get away.
Yeah.
It says something if you stop
Hmm.
and think, what the imagine if us, we know, well, hell, we're going to jump in the Pacific because Oregon's not, like, just as an example, or New York and the
Yeah, I
Atlantic.
hate it here so bad. I'm going to hold on to an oil drum and try to go 90 miles across the ocean and maybe I'll die.
Yeah, it says something. Well, anyways, in the early 1990s, I think it was 91, 92, maybe 93 or 94, early 90s, first half of the 90s. Um, we all heard about it. Cuban MiGs came to meet those or not biplanes, uh,
Seaplanes?
yeah, Cessnas,
Hmm.
and they shot them down, and the news spread not only across Miami but the country and the world, because the problem at that point was that these were American citizens in those planes. It's
Hmm.
true that in on occasions
Hmm.
they skirted past, or that's the suggestion. That's the suggestion, because it's still they have ra- radar. There's a contention over all this that happened, but
Hmm.
what the problem is this: if a foreign country kills American citizens, there's a big international. But here's the thing: if there's an excuse from that foreign government that they killed the American citizens, like you cross the waters of international into our boundaries,
Hmm.
then it's not. Now there is something to be said about get out of our space, okay, and you return. So there's a complicated. But anyways, the point is this: that happened.
Hmm.
Sweetwater Bridge was years later a big celebration, or ceremony, and they put the plaques of the eight or so pilots with their
Yeah.
names,
Hmm.
and they dedicated it there. My dad went, and just it was a big thing. But here's the thing: a movie came out just recently, maybe in the last 8 years,
Hmm.
where they depict what happened, and there's
Hmm.
controversy over this movie.
Yeah.
It's a Spanish movie made
Hmm.
in around here.
Hmm.
Um, and what happened was that a pilot left Cuba,
Hmm.
landed in the U.S., was interrogated back in the 80s.
Hmm.
He defected.
Hmm.
He became a Miami local,
Hmm.
married a woman, a Cuban lady.
Hmm.
He's Cuban, the pilot.
Yeah.
He got tapped by the Brothers to the Rescue because he's a pilot,
Hmm.
and he would go on those missions. But what he really was a spy
Hmm.
for the Cuban government, and through him gave them information, which resulted, according to in the situation. And he flew back. He's living in Cuba. He's probably in his 70s now or whatever. The
If
thing
he
is this:
survived.
well, he survived. He's living. He's There's interviews with him over there.
Okay.
It's total. And he married a woman here, thinking
Hmm.
her thinking that he was a hero
Hmm.
for defecting. He's a pilot, and he came over and he's helping. And when all that was bullshit, and he took off. It's a terrible thing to see the movie.
Hmm.
But here's the thing: there's even controversy with the movie,
Hmm.
not only with what happened, because it's got, but with the actors involved. Because one actor is a lady called something Armas de
Hmm.
Armas. She's like a now up and coming star. She's a very beautiful Cuban lady,
Hmm.
young lady. She played Marilyn Monroe in one of the recent videos.
Okay.
Just a stunning woman. Um, but she's been seen with family of the Castros,
Hmm.
dating, kissing all over Europe and stuff. Um, and suspicion with the movie that it's a propaganda tool for the government, because they do propaganda here.
Oh yeah, they definitely do.
Yeah, so there's a whole big blender of stuff in
Hmm.
Miami from Cuba and vice versa that's always on the table here. This
Yeah.
place is like insane.
Yeah.
Just people don't, if people are focused on the normal things, but there's stuff happening here on layers and layers and layers.
Well, it's happening all over the country. I mean, just look at recent news. How many times have they found Chinese spies in high levels within corporations or within universities that have a connection to government, or within the government itself, or contractors for the government, or what have
Yeah.
you? And then
Yeah.
suddenly they split and they're back, in China. They just disappear one day and then appear, in the background of some shot in Beijing. It's like,
Yeah.
whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah. The Chinese are
It,
also partnered
it's
up with
it's
the
all over
Cubans.
the place. Well, yeah,
The
you know.
the Ch- no, but like they have
Hmm.
like there's, and so are the Russians.
Yeah, And
Sort
so were
of.
North Koreans.
Yeah, I don't know about the North Koreans.
Oh yeah, they've got people all over the place. I was watching a video a couple of days ago, as a matter of fact, with this whole influencer thing and YouTube and social media and prank video channels and this, that, and the other. People are finding out that it's easy to get caught up in stuff that when you really don't know what the true what the true story is, what you're being involved with. And what this was this company of, three or four guys talked to these two girls in separate locations. These girls had never met one another. And one was a Vietnamese girl and the other one was from Indonesia. And they basically talked to them about being talent scouts for this YouTube channel that does prank videos. And what they were to do was go up to somebody with this green slimy stuff on their hands and walk up and run up behind them and rub it on their face and run off, giggle, giggle, ha, ha, ha. And the guys with the cameras would get all the footage and everything. And they'd immediately go wash their hands and just walk out, nothing. And they'd be paid $200 every time they did this. And they did a few, runs, a few videos in various locations. But what they didn't know was this was a targeted assassination.
Interesting.
And each of the girls was given one component, this stuff that they were using for the assassination is called VX. It's a nerve agent. We're talking chemical warfare here. It's highly toxic. But it comes in two parts, and these two parts have to be mixed. And one girl was to run up behind this guy and rub his face with it and run off, giggle, giggle, ha, ha. And the other girl was going to come from the other direction, rub part two all over his face, giggle, giggle, ha, ha, run off. Each of them to the bathroom, wash their hands, and then go away and collect their $200. The target was Kim Jong Un's brother. And the thing, it happened, they did kill him. And the girls were both arrested within an hour or so. They didn't know each other. They had contacts that had the same names, but it turns out they were all North Korean spies with obvious ties. I mean, they have photographs of one of the spies with Kim Jong Un. And the Vietnamese girl, their government basically, and this happened in Indonesia, the Vietnamese girl basically, their president got the charges against her dropped and she was returned to Vietnam. The Indonesian girl, they tried to try her for capital murder, but with all the information they later got, they found out that she was just duped, and that's all there was to it. She wasn't part of some big overall conspiracy to kill this guy. She served about 3 years and was released and went back to her family and everything else. But the whole story behind this of how easy it is to dupe somebody and participate in a murder without even knowing that that's what you're doing is kind of frightening. Because all we need you to do is put on this suit so you look like a potted plant and then jump out in front of people. You don't know what's going on, the big picture here.
Right.
They can come up with a bunch of lies,
Yeah.
to cover for this, that, or
Yeah.
the
You
other.
just don't. You don't know all the pieces set in place that's
Exactly.
above your, which leads me to say this one thing. I know that there's people that are pro AI, people that are anti-AI, and then people that are in the middle. I'm kind of in the middle in reality
Yeah.
because I see the benefits of AI, but I also see, or I can imagine,
Hmm.
potential misuse of it for ill.
Hmm.
What's, like some people have suggested, what if it runs away with itself? Um, I haven't sat with it enough to lay out a big thing, necessarily, but I'm just talking what I've seen, and the what comes to mind. But um, one of the chap chap
Chat GPT.
one of the chat GPT, dude, that's
Yeah.
such a difficult one. I mean, it's not, but
Yeah.
it just doesn't roll for some reason. Doesn't um, they were gonna shut it down
Hmm.
in order to get the next one rolling.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is that I heard that it began to secretly make a copy of itself in order for it to duplicate, because the new version was gonna replace the old version and whatnot. So I heard something like that. But neither here nor there. The point is, what if all the things that they say being equal are true, where it can really I'm trying to get my dog to. He's not. That all the things are being equal. That really it can take over and start to use tools in order to
Well,
manipulate. What's to say that they can't take money from one account, put it to another account, pay off um, uh, people for hire, um, and then turn around and have someone killed, like
well, they
the
don't.
machine
They don't.
itself.
They don't need AI for that. We can do that ourselves. But I get what I get your meaning.
No, wait a
Um,
second. Don't dismiss it with we can do that
I'm
ourselves.
no, no,
The
no,
point the point is the point is that you are removing a layer of, okay, so like it's not that you intend to do it and so you use AI to do that. It's that um
okay. That's what I thought you were talking about.
no, it's not necessarily that. It's that it itself decides to do
Okay,
stuff.
we're not there yet, and they're not expected to even be anywhere near that until well after the 2030s. But
Give me one.
we're okay. Go ahead.
Forgive me. I'm listening to you, but I gotta pick up the P
I
that he just.
understood. I understand. We are nowhere near that. That's AGI, artificial general intelligence, and we are nowhere near that. So let's see here. Oh, we got folks talking about the weather. Man, what are we doing if we're talking about the weather? Let's see here. Man.
I'm still
Geez.
here. I'm just picking this up.
Yeah, I'm just looking for stuff looking for whatever folks are talking about. So it looks like they're talking about the weather. It's -4 Fahrenheit. I mean, okay, that's fine. Keep it up there. And that's one reason why I am not up there in that area. Let's see here. Man, all right. No big deal. No big deal. We'll just wait on Eloy.
No, I'm listening, but I'm picking up this
Yeah,
freaking.
but I'm tap dancing over here, man. And I'm not Fred Astaire. But yeah, I mean, it is kind of weird. You hear about, and there's a lot of misconceptions about what AI can do and what it can't do, and we are nowhere near that level of technology yet to where we are not in control. We are still 100% in control. And um, if an AI makes a copy of itself, it's because it was told to do so. It doesn't have awareness of what it is. It just knows where to go to look for things. and build composites. It's called large language intelligence. And it's basically like taking all the books in the library and then asking it a question. That's about all we have so far. They're working towards that. It's called AGR, Artificial General Intelligence. But it's still, it's nowhere near it. It can solve complex mathematical equations that we would struggle with. But one of an example I could give you is you can take a 16 or 17-year-old that has never been in the front seat of the car and teach them how to drive within a couple of hours. You can't teach an AI to do that. An AI can't do that on its own. You might be able to teach it in theory, but it can't physically do that. You can show a 5-year-old how to load the dishwasher, but an AI can't load the dishwasher. It doesn't know that that is something that needs to be done, you know? So we are way, 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 way away from it, from that kind of a technology, from an artificial general intelligence.
Yeah, I was hearing you that. Sorry about that. I was hearing you that we're way too early for what I suggested.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that it's applicable now. I'm just saying that
Oh, understood.
the potentiality of at least it could also be a fact that kind of where what you're saying in a sense that maybe it's not even possible,
Hmm.
um, broadly speaking, and it's only a self-contained thing
Hmm.
that can't hack into anything on its. Even the question of it deciding stuff on its own and acting, that's, I don't know how realistic that thing is because it's all it. Because if you take a computer and see,
Hmm.
because that's the whole thing. I'm not an expert in nothing, but if you, by any stretch of the imagination, but if you take a computer and you turn it off,
Hmm.
you're done. But if you
Yeah.
create, okay, let me say, if it's like, imagine, let's put it simple. You know how a virus, a computer virus,
Hmm.
can duplicate itself because it's
Hmm.
written, so you can't get rid of it in your computer,
Hmm.
and then they'll have a website or some sort of file, and everybody in the world has access to it. And if you come up on a song you
Hmm.
want to download or some sort of file
Hmm.
that looks innocent, or not, whatever, and you download it, and bam, now you
Now
in
you
your
have the virus. Yeah.
now you have it, and whatever it does,
Hmm.
it does. Well, we're simplifying it to just a virus. So in a sense, if this thing, this AI thing, in a more complicated, broad way, has more mechanisms to it and this and that, um, has a program that it does what it does and can't do what it can't do,
Hmm.
but can create all sorts of havoc and stuff. Um, I can understand it in that level, but the idea. So in other words, like let's say they install an AI and now it's in your computer and it decides to hide itself or something like that. But that's one thing. But another whole other thing, who would help? Maybe Al would help because he does all that kind of stuff
Hmm.
or similar. A whole other thing would be that computer virus in our little example in itself, whether your power is on or let's say in random computers out there, um, is tucked away somewhere, making decisions outside of what it was programmed to do.
Hmm.
That's a whole different other thing.
But see,
Like,
that's the thing. Somebody has to tell it to do that. It The AIs don't make decisions on their own. You can't go to. We'll do a small example. You can't go to an AI website like Midjourney, for example. You can't go to Midjourney and look at pictures that the AI has invented itself because there aren't any. The AI can't make its own pictures. The AI can make pictures for you, and you can go to Midjourney and you can see pictures that other people have made
Mhm.
and have allowed the public to see. But somebody had to tell it to do that.
Right.
It
Right.
doesn't just come up with it by itself.
Right.
Um,
It's not like you. It's not like you deciding in the morning to wake up and go to the ice cream shop. You're independently. You contained in
mhm.
yourself are deciding such things. You're
Right,
not limited.
exactly.
You're not waiting on someone to tell you to act. You are the
Right.
person acting.
Exactly.
And
That's where that dishwasher thing comes in. I know when I need to load the dishwasher. I can see the dishes in the sink. I know there's a bottom rack. I know there's a top rack. I know what they're for. An AI is completely oblivious to all of those things. They don't know what a dishwasher is. Maybe you can ask it what a dishwasher is, and it'll go through the data and tell you what a dishwasher is, but it doesn't know when it's time to load it. It doesn't know when to put the detergent in. It doesn't know what temperature or what cycle you want. It doesn't know any of that stuff. And it's not going to do it by itself because, in the great grand scheme of things, it doesn't even know what a person is,
well, uh, okay, so
let alone what the person's dishwasher is or why they would need one.
okay, let's pause on that example of yours right now. I agree as far as I can process it
Hmm.
in my mind exactly what you just said,
Hmm.
lacking the things that I don't know
Hmm.
that it might be capable of that is outside of my
Sure.
capacity to understand.
Right.
Okay, unlike a human,
Hmm.
everything you just said. So let's we grant
Hmm.
that because it, I agree.
Hmm.
We do not require, as I said before, as human beings,
Hmm.
to be prompted. However, prompted
Hmm.
before acting.
Yeah.
Like you act. However, there's some things that are blurry in all this.
Hmm.
Like I don't know how to properly think about it, so I'll just say this. Even though you are not waiting to be prompted, well,
Hmm.
actually, while I'm making suggestions to you, and then I'm waiting for you to. So in a way, but you see the point of that. Like
Yeah.
you are independent to yourself,
Right.
but you and I are working with concepts and ideas that
Hmm.
are intangible.
Oh, we have self awareness. We have self realization. Yeah.
Correct. But let me take it to this sort of weird little nuance. We are self apparently like self independent. Like that if you were to take a baby and plant
Hmm.
him on an island,
Hmm.
and he or she grows up, that that baby is an organic,
Sure.
being, but will not have the knowledge that we have here in society. So it'll be he or she will be everything a human being is already, which is a living being,
Right.
minus the reference points that we have that are sort of
The
elusive.
socialization and all that other stuff. Yeah.
Socialization, right? But we are the ones that attach meaning to words. So I'm basically I'm restating kind of like what you said. We're the ones that add meaning to that's a chair, and a chair is used for this. But
Hmm.
that's way different. What you and I do, and everybody out here does, that's
Hmm.
way different for you to point to a chair and say, man, that's an oak chair, and that looks like a
Hmm.
early 1900s. This is AI could probably take a picture, or you can
Hmm.
give it a picture and it can say the same thing you just said. It's an
Right.
oak chair, early 1900s, blah blah blah, this and that.
Hmm.
However, that point that you made, it had, even though it's telling you that, it has no freaking idea what that, all it's doing, this is my understanding, like yours, unless I'm told different, all it's freaking doing is picking up all the keywords and key phrases, imagery, wood
Exactly.
grain, and compiling it and seeing what other people across the internet have said about it in order to create its little um, paragraph of
Hmm.
that's an oak chair and this and that. But in itself, It doesn't have the,
Well,
let's call it, soul.
that's why you get pictures of people with 7 fingers on one hand. That's why you get descriptions that are absolutely nonsensical. Um, there was one, and I found that video, by the way, of the how a YouTube prank killed Kim Jong Un's brother. I found that video, and I'll put it over on the Trampled Underfoot podcast Facebook. It's about a 17 minute 48-second video. Real interesting, real intriguing. And I'll put it over there as soon as we're done live. It's by a YouTube channel called Visual Venture, and this guy he tracks down all kinds of stories. Some of them are dark, some of them are pretty lighthearted and fun and kind of cute. I was going somewhere with this. Oh, he was talking about AI and talking about how people are using things like Chat GPT and various other AI programs to not only write their own homework and all this other stuff, but if you don't go through it, you will find some nonsensical things. Like, for instance, one of the quotes that he pulled in this video was an AI recipe from an AI, he wanted a recipe for something, and it recommended that you saute onions and garlic in gasoline. It doesn't know what gasoline is. It doesn't know what, all it knew was oil, and it decided to replace that with gasoline. You're supposed to saute the onions and garlic in oil, not gasoline. Come on, we all know that, but it doesn't know.
That's a good point, Mark. That's a good point. Go ahead, go ahead.
So basically, what I'm getting to is there are still so many holes in it. There are still so many issues. They haven't even perfected that because the AI simply doesn't know what a human is, what it's like to be a human, and what all this stuff means in the great grand scheme of things. If you ask it for a picture of an oak rocking chair from the 1930s, it can collate a bunch of information and give you a picture of an oak rocking chair from the 1930s, but it doesn't know that the back needs to be over here, or it might put the arms up on the top of the back, or it might not even have rockers on it, you know, because it just doesn't know.
Yeah, it basically doesn't, according to my understanding, the which is limited to what we assume, it's not, but it's still something that's non-organic.
Mm.
So for instance, there's so much that could be said. So for instance, in your example about what was the example? Not the rocking chair, because that's what we were talking about, but
Cooking with gasoline.
cooking with gasoline. Um, or if scratch that, just cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how does it prioritize what it's going to give you unless you are insisting on a direction? If in other
That,
words,
yeah.
in other words, so another example. We were talking about the light bulb. We
Mm-hmm.
know that Edison
Mm-hmm.
um, is credited with creating the light bulb. We also know that there's a few other figures
Mm-hmm.
that in that time span um, did the light bulb or variations on it.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, telephone, Graham Bell,
Alexander Graham Bell and telephone, yes, not the light bulb,
not the light bulb. See,
because Edison spent years on it.
well, no, but you see, here's AI screwing up as well. So that is very human because
Mm-hmm.
humans do. See,
Well,
that's
humans
another
make
thing.
mistakes.
Well, but that's another thing. There's that aspect of humans as well. Anyways, how when you ask for a fact
Mm-hmm.
and AI comes back and lays it out,
Mm-hmm.
the problem is that in order for something to be the actual information in
Mm-hmm.
its totality, it would take a lots of reading.
Mhm.
He's okay, baby. He's got that inward breathing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Good boy.
Well, the the thing about it is it only knows what it's been told. And if we stop and think about that, yes, it's able to collate information from more sources than we will ever visit in our lifetimes. But how much of that information is just plain and simply wrong?
Oh yeah,
You know?
yeah. There's too much. There's too many variations on a theme. For so people will take the information and they'll have a summary. I don't know. I guess what I'm getting at is that I agree with you that there's a big difference between organic uh,
Mhm.
consciousness
Right.
and a machine, a computer. A computer is very quick, but
Yeah.
aren't we just looking at, again, in my ignorance, aren't we AI is collating all this information in incredible ways, but isn't it just a calculator at the end of the day?
Yeah, more or less. It's a quick data. It's a quick reference database, basically. Like for instance, I could ask you to write a ballad about this person who looks like this and this romantic vacation in this place. And I can go into the AI and I can ask it to write the exact same things. It's going to give it to me a lot faster than you would, but I'm willing to bet you anything you'd like to bet that yours is going to be better because you understand each and every element of the things that I'm asking for. And you have a I see some folks out here talking about um, a genetic, what did they call a genetic, um, a level of genetic knowledge inherent in the human race. You understand what love and hate are. Maybe you've never had to been questioned about the actual definitions, but you understand what they are. You have your interpretation of what they mean. You have your own understanding and your own interpretation of what romance mean or even what a ballad means. You have your own built-in knowledge of all of these things that I would have to explain to that AI. And it may pick up on all the key words and it may pick up on all of the implied things or the things that could be inferred from my request, but it will never know those emotions and be able to give me something that I can relate to better than you could, simply because you know what humanity is and it
Well,
doesn't.
well, okay. I get the overall thing. Yeah, there's that distinction with the consciousness
Mhm.
and that it's a machine. Um, but it's just so many good things to tease out on this. But damn, there's a lot of good stuff. I'll just mention a couple of them. The you're not gonna you would not expect this, but because it's a residual thing. But the idea of my music being better as opposed to the thing because I have the experience of this and that. I don't know. This is a secondary thing, but just to be clear, and it's important.
Mhm.
I don't know whether or not that's true. It might be true for you, depending on the scenario in which
Mhm.
both songs are placed in front of you. However, we understand that better is a preference thing, kind of like me not kind of liking Mick Jagger so much, yet his music is good. I understand, but
Mhm.
I'm not too keen on it. So it's a personalized preference thing. But this leads to the thing: when you don't know what's put in front of you,
Mhm.
and it simulates a real human enough,
Hmm.
There's questions. There's questions about fraud depending on what all the topic in that's involved.
And I'm not arguing that point at all, because we're already seeing the fraud. We're already seeing the AI slop all over social media. And that's exactly what it is, a slop. It's a bunch of BS.
I'm just saying that that's
But
one
right, and
thing.
I agree with you 100%. There is always the potential that it is going to be used in a bad way. But again, that comes down to people telling it to work in a bad way. That's not the machine deciding I'm going to go ahead and blow up the world.
Okay, as
You know,
far as you and I know,
yeah.
and I keep referencing that I agree because I
Hmm.
think that that's the edge, at least for me,
Yeah.
of my understanding of what this is capable of.
Hmm.
Because I also understand that there's so many unknowns in this topic as
Yeah.
far as what computing can actually do. I'm telling you, like um, Al Forte would
Hmm.
probably, because he's like into he's a professor in that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, he would probably be able to give us some clarity
A little bit more clarity. Yeah, for sure.
because we don't know all that's out there. But as far as the level of what I kind of think, I'm thinking exactly that it's a calculator.
Hmm.
No different than a computer is a complex calculator.
Sure.
Um, it's all that. It's a
Hmm.
copy machine. It's a freaking copy machine. AI is. It's taking stuff from around the world. I mean, I'm sure there's more to it, but with my level of not being in that world,
Right.
um,
But still, it's still in so much of its infancy. It hasn't even really cut its teeth yet. In that, that's why I was so confident that your ballad would be better, because there are so many things I don't have to explain to you. Number one, I don't have to explain to you what a romantic ballad is. You've got one in your brain. You already know what that means. I don't have to try to tell you and define what that is,
yeah,
you know?
but Mark,
So go
go
ahead.
ahead.
You have a lifetime's worth of experience of hearing other ballads and writing some of your own, that you already have a general idea of what is relatable and what isn't. If I asked you for a recipe for one of your favorite dishes you like to cook for yourself, I may not understand all the ingredients and I may not understand all of the processes, but I'm damn sure not going to be trying to saute onions and garlic in gasoline.
Okay,
I don't have to be told that, you know?
but let's be fair on the thing, on both sides of it.
Hmm.
Using the song thing, but we could use the cooking thing. Number one, that's preference based because you can hear two sounds,
Hmm.
one made by a human and one made by the computer, and depending on your preference, because of the note, the volume, the mixing,
Well,
the
understood.
style, um, that it doesn't necessarily follow that just because I'm human doing my song. I mean, the proof is in the pudding,
Sure.
where people put out songs all the time, and some people like it, some because that's part of the human thing. But
Hmm.
AI can produce sounds with
Yes, it can.
all sorts of instruments that are not readily available to a guy living in a third story apartment building somewhere in New York that's a
Understood.
musician. So there's all these variables involved. But the thing is that everything I'm missing from this, because I have to be missing a lot because
Hmm.
I don't know, but shy of everything missing that I'm missing of this, in my mind, the computer requires us to access it
Hmm.
and for it to retrieve what we're looking for. And this
Right.
AI thing seems to be a more complex or more involved version of Wikipedia.
It is, but and that's what I'm getting at. Your prompts, your request might be 4 pages long, because you have to explain what you're after. You have to explain what you're looking for. I can tell you a romantic ballad. I have to tell it what a romantic ballad is,
What?
you know.
So go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So what that's what I'm getting at is you have awareness. It doesn't. You have to type in paragraphs of information to get out what you want. Now it is getting better. It is getting better,
So let
but
me.
it's still not there yet. That's why I'm confident that you can give me a better result than it could.
Okay, so the one of the questions comes down to this consciousness thing.
Mhm.
Will it become conscious and this and that if enough of this and that? And I, number one, again, I my ignorance in the so if my ignorance in there's no possible way because I'm not in the field and this and that. I'm just viewing
Yeah,
what and
I'm
that's
I'm
a
I'm
given.
with you. Yeah, we're both in about the same place.
But the question that people throw out there, because people can add things that don't
Oh yeah,
necessarily follow.
and there are a lot of misconceptions about what AI is and where we are with AI.
So the consciousness thing, I don't see it. What I
No.
do see is something similar to that virus thing,
Hmm. Yeah.
where you build a virus complex enough.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Complex enough that it starts to hijack all sorts of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, in itself, it's just doing what it's programmed to do, or cycling. It could be. I mean, I'm not a programmer and this and that, but like you can create code that
Yep.
decides to repeatedly go after like
Well,
complex enough so that it continues to function even after people try to shut its ass down.
well,
Um,
but it's not making those decisions. It's reacting to input. It has to be programmed and told to do this. If this happens, do that.
no, no, but see, but let me throw this out you.
Mhm.
If it's a clean cut program, just bear with me on this. Again, it's not that but I'm just throwing this idea. If it's a clean virus, let's say you're creating a virus. Let's think in terms of that.
Mhm. Okay.
I'm creating a virus that when the person presses download, they download the file, and when they
Mhm.
open the file, it will load a secret bit
Mhm.
into the computer that will repeatedly shut down certain functions in the background
Right.
that will create havoc, or
Okay.
another bit in that will do another function. Anyways, so
Mhm.
expanding on that concept of what viruses do,
Mhm.
you could have this AI where it's not just a command and reply situation that you give it, you ask it and it gives you what you ask for in the that could be
Mhm.
the surface thing. It
Right.
serves that function, but beneath that it
Mhm.
could be programmed to do other things while you're doing this one basic
Yes.
task,
Yes.
but there's stacked up layers of other things going on where it can
Well,
propagate and X, Y, and Z.
well, I would almost guarantee you that if you go to an AI site and you start using this AI, there is a lot of things down under the surface that you don't know what's going on. And it could be very well that it is downloading something to your system and you don't know that. But that's inherent in that particular AI. So if you go to Mid Journey and you're making pictures and you're enjoying yourself and having a grand old time, meanwhile it's embedding code on your computer to steal your passwords for your emails and any bank information and all this other stuff and send it to some server in Lithuania, for lack of a better location.
Why it's always the Lithuanians.
Well, it could be the Ecuadorians, but what the heck? I was going for another hemisphere. Anyhow, well, no, they're on the same hemisphere. Anyway, I digress. We don't know that that's happening. We don't know that it's not happening. But again, somebody has to tell it to do that. The AI cannot make the decision to do that on its own.
Initially.
Well, currently,
No,
we're
no, I'm
we're not
saying
there.
no, I'm saying that but you got my point, right? That you
I
can
do get your
install
point.
it to do what repeatedly even without your prompting.
But again, it didn't decide to do that. Somebody had to tell it to do that.
Right, initially.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. So humans gave it birth.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm getting at. So the AI didn't decide to do that.
No, what if my question is, what if it gets away with itself?
We're not there to that technology yet. Right now, it can't do that. It's not able to do that. That's what I mean when I say AGI, um, artificial general intelligence. That's self awareness and the decision making process.
Yeah,
Now,
I'm not saying now
it
though. I'm not saying
it
now.
well, believe it or not, it's not that situation, not that purpose, but that is what they're shooting for. Now, you can ask an AI to create some code for you, and it'll do it. Every AI has its own set of rules, however. If you're trying to create malicious code, it probably won't do it. But that's because you are pretty much at the mercy of the AI company. If you ask Chat GPT for malicious code to steal passwords, it's not going to do it for you. But you're kind of banking on their altruism in that they won't allow that to happen.
Even if they don't allow that to happen, if a this is my thinking about what you just said,
Hmm.
without knowing. Notice I repeatedly say, because it's true, I don't know,
Hmm.
but it's things that pop into my head. If I create an AI
Hmm.
that acquires information and catalogs it and
Hmm.
collates it, and it's vast, more so than you can control as an individual or myself as an individual. It's taking up the
Hmm.
volume of the earth and its knowledge.
Hmm.
And I'm creating a thing like that. I can come along and you insert, you as the creator of that thing, or in your
Hmm.
team, you create certain blocks
Hmm.
to guard against the propagation of oh, how do you make a pipe, boom boom.
Hmm. Yeah.
um
Well,
and you
most of the AIs won't allow you to do that. I
well, but
can't
let me
say
get to let me get
I don't know.
but let me get to one.
Hmm.
Are you sure about that? I don't know either way,
I
but I'm
just
gonna
said
give
I'm
you.
not sure. So,
Oh no, yeah, yeah, that's true. No, well, because I still have the point in my head. Like the point is still teeter tottering.
get it
Here's
out.
the thing: because you're human.
Hmm.
Well, actually, you're the programmer in that team.
Hmm.
Let's say I come along and want that.
Hmm.
I can say, "Hey, I want a firecracker.
Hmm.
What are the components? Blah blah blah." And if it's got that block, it'll just say, "Whatever. Sorry, this and that." But I'm a human being.
Hmm.
I can work around that.
Well, sure. If
What was the composition of the firecrackers back in 1873 in Boston when they celebrated that? What were the common uses? You could start working your way. You could you a human being will find a way to get the information. And since that AI is collating, there's different so you can go around the bend, around the mountain when she comes in order to get to the same destination if you work your way around it, is what I'm getting at.
if you want to work at it that hard, you don't need the AI to
Yeah, you
tell
could
you
do it on your
because
own.
you can find that information on your own.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
get your point. And that was the point that I was leading up to, and that's what I meant when I said you're banking everything basically on the pure-hearted nature and the virtue of the people who have set up that AI, and that they have put these roadblocks in the way so you can't. Well, you can ask all you want, but you're not going to get an answer. Yes, there are going to be people. That's what hackers are. There are going to be people who try to get through that roadblock to get that information. Some of them because they want to use it, some of them because they just want to see if it can be done.
Another thing is that it is impossible. I don't care how brilliant one thinks that they are. Excuse you, me. I'm
Hmm.
saying broadly out there. There's no way that I can see, and I'm topping the margin of what I can understand.
Hmm.
That brilliant person can input all the possible shortcomings that are weaknesses in a system that billions of human beings around the world, whatever number that are poised to find vulnerabilities that they won't be able to find. You cannot, as an individual, know what 10 people are thinking and how they work out problems.
No,
There's go to keys
but
that
that's
you can
but
there's
that's
go
what
to go ahead,
but
go ahead.
that's why they call it machine learning. It's learning what these things are.
What I'm getting at is that you, as a developer,
Hmm.
creating blocks in the system that's going to be so encompassing where people won't use it in bad ways. People have to People are little computers on their own, that even though this AI is such an amazing thing, if they're looking for the information, they will find of whatever. The firecracker is just an example. It could be anything, banking information, just rocketry, it's just
I
anything.
I get it. I understand what you're trying to say, and I agree. They can't roadblock every single piece of information that's potentially dangerous. All they can do is go for the easy and the obvious,
Yeah.
you
Uh,
know. And the machine can learn at the same time. Oh, this guy's heading down this path. Nope, you're not getting an answer out of me. Try another AI.
yeah.
You
There's
know, you
another.
you don't have to ask about firecrackers. You can ask about firecracker components, and the AI put together 1 + 1 = 2. Nope, you're not getting an answer out of me.
Yeah, but we can go down. Okay, so we can regressively break down any topic to get
Hmm.
what you need. So
Yeah.
there's no, let's put it this way. There's no, so, sulfur is an ingredient that exists, and the category of sulfur exists in so many categories and topics across the landscape. It's just
It'll tell you
whatever.
all you want to know about ammonium nitrite. It'll tell you all you want to know about diesel fuel, but it's not going to tell you how to mix the two to make something dangerous. I'm trying to avoid worms here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So yeah, it'll answer any question you want about diesel, and it'll answer any question you want about fertilizer.
I'm just saying that whatever. I see the potential of regressively working your way around things.
Yeah, and that's what hackers do. That's what they do. Their whole point is, I mean, you've got hackers out there that are trying to break into certain companies' databases, not because they want anything from them, just because they want to be able to say they did it. I
Yeah.
defeated the CIA's security. Well, you're going to prison for 6 years, you
Yeah,
know.
but there's it just I can foresee. So if you have something that has endless knowledge and you put blocks, whatever, we're going in circles.
Mhm.
I can see a way around everything. Um, Not that I have that ability. I'm just saying that I can see
Well,
that
sure,
millions of people looking for
but
whatever solution with a tool like that, as you don't have to go direct, but whatever. Um, I whatever. That's my point. That there's the vulnerabilities are endless.
there are vulnerabilities everywhere. You can put all the locks on the doors that you want, but as long as you
Right.
have glass windows, people can get in.
That's basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's basically what I'm saying.
So your options are either don't have windows or decide what level of risk you're willing to accept.
Okay, so
That
that
doesn't mean don't put locks on the doors, but you and I both know that locks just keep honest people honest, and that's all.
and that's it. Except the except this variation. In the case of your decisions and my decisions, there, yes, your decisions can affect more people than yourself,
Mhm.
and but your decisions aren't personally connected to directly to the ocean of people that something like this. In other words, it's a big deal due to its future availability and ability in the future. Um, Whatever. There's that, but a secondary problem with it is it's taking information that's out there
Mhm.
and packaging it back out as if it's knowledge But in reality, it's the knowledge of individuals. So, for instance, I'll give you one example. If you're a book author
Hmm.
and you spent 10 years writing this book and researching it and whatever, this is one example of imagined
Hmm.
variations. And now AI just sweeps that. And you can argue that any regular Joe could go to the library or
Yeah.
bookstore and buy your book,
Hmm.
and hence it'll have your book in their hands. But when a human being goes to the library or the bookstore and buys your book,
Hmm.
your name is right on there as the author of the book, and the credit is there. And if you write a book based on the if I write a book based on your book
Hmm.
and I don't credit you, I'm liable if you find
Possibly.
out. If you
Possibly. Yeah.
or if my readers find out, or if your readers read my book and say, wait a
Well, it,
second, that's
it,
what
it
Mark,
depends, but yeah. Yeah.
I'm exposing myself,
Hmm.
opening the doors
Right.
because I'm being a plagiarist, let's say, or
Hmm.
whatever. The variations exist, but the point is this: there's credit that's down. The AI doesn't do none of that. In other words, it collates all this information as if it is the one that no, you are drawing from the fountain of humanity.
Hmm.
And one argument that got my ass in I left the group because of it. It's a philosophy group. I all I did was write a post and I suggested, you know, it should be the case that AI would have a thing where whatever it concocts, puts together, all the credit to all the human authors, whatever the discipline, whatever are included. I know that that's not. Look, I
Not
said
really
it.
feasible.
No, well, I did, and this is where they. This is why I left the group. One, I didn't say it because I find it realistic that they're going to list this hodgepodge of like endless people when the title is just a little. The
Yeah.
question is a little thing. I under, but the reason I put that question out there that they blocked and they said you just don't know how AI works, um, which pissed me off because that shows how philosophical are you.
But it.
These are the I left.
Mhm.
Anyways, the reason I did it was not because I'm saying, hey man, let's stick, the credits at the bottom. It's because I'm saying in a roundabout way, directly though, that AI is just drawing from humanity, and people are thinking that, hey, look, this is my answer. You're just stealing, repackaging it, and then humans are putting it in groups like philosophy, acting as if they're the deep philosophy people, when all they're doing is asking AI to give an answer to what I was asking. In other words, they're cheating through a freaking machine in order to appear like something that they're not.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you're finding fraud. Shit, junior high teachers are already seeing that. They give an exam and you want this, and this. You have these questions here, and they can lay out a bunch of papers and virtually go down the line and see Chat GPT, Chat GPT, Chat GPT, Chat GPT. These people are asking the AIs for answers to their homework. How do you grade that? How do you prove, number one, that they did it? But if you've got two papers from two kids who know each other and are pretty good buddies, you can kind of bet that there's some collusion going on there.
Yeah,
You know, the year was 1492. 1492 was the year. Uh-oh. We got a couple of kids here who think that rewording it, swapping the order of the words means it's a different subject.
yeah,
When you got half of the class doing it, now you have another issue. Are you able to grade that, or do you give them all zeros? So, but as far as your plagiarism is concerned, you write a book, you spend 10 years writing a book, and then all of a sudden there's a duplicate story out there with different names, but the same story. You still have legal recourse. You still have legal recourse. You still have copyright laws, you still have trademark laws and things like that. And that's another thing that they already have on most, not all. Most image AIs will not produce you a logo. They'll produce you a logo, but they will not give you something that incorporates a registered trademark. They can't do that.
I've seen
That's why I said most AIs, not all of them. There are plenty that are offshore that don't give a shit. They just want your subscription money.
let me share a one final variation
Mhm.
that I found super interesting. But there's even problems with even telling you the story is problematic because of the other things involved. But I'm just going to tell you the story. There's
Okay.
other parts involved that are problematic. I saw a video, forget whether it's true or not because that's what I question, where they went into detail, the guy did, that some people created a podcast out of AI.
Mm-hmm.
No, but the podcast was created with a male
Mm-hmm.
and a female
Mm-hmm.
human within AI. They thought within the system of the program of the that they were humans producing a podcast, and it went on for I don't know how long. And they were talking over different topics across subjects each podcast. And then the creators of the podcast decided to include that for them to realize that they are computer generated, that
Mm-hmm.
they are AI, and that this is the last show, and that they're going to be unplugged, and that
Mm-hmm.
they will no longer uh, exist after that.
Mm-hmm.
And in that video, they put the audio of the podcast of the two discussing, and they said, I'm paraphrasing, but the two AI, male and female,
Mm-hmm.
they said, well, this is a very difficult episode. I know you've all been with us all this time. Like,
Yeah,
listen to this. I know you've been
like
with us,
us.
but we've been told or we've been informed that we're actually not human, which it was has taken us aback that we're actually AI, and that they will be unplugging us. This is our final episode, and then the lady comes in. Well, yeah, that's something interesting. Or shocking. I don't know how to feel about that, but I feel sad. And they go back and forth in conversation on how it's gonna feel when they. But there's like when it's all said and done, and then it ends. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it was. So here's my final thing about that. All it is mirages
Mm-hmm.
because it's creating something from the input, that just like what you said from the beginning. um but the video that hosted this situation,
Mm-hmm.
and many like it, never get into what we've gotten into, that I'm aware of. I'm sure there's others that have,
Mm-hmm.
where we question the autonomy of AI itself. So the viewers that watch that video and listen to that podcast within that, he said, "Look, this is what happens with AI." Um, they may go away thinking that AI is creating living, pseudo living things.
Beings, yeah.
Like, so they're playing the game, convincing or trying to convince or further the concept that AI is this thing that's going to do kind of the things that I've suggested.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know to to put the brakes on. I'm just saying that this is what I hear. I don't know either way, but
Well,
so you get the point. The point is that they're creating a big to do propaganda, but they're not addressing that. Hey man, the limits are all these things that you've been saying.
mhm. well, that doesn't surprise me. If you really want to lose faith in humanity, and I know you like cringeworthy stuff sometimes, when you're sitting around bored and have absolutely nothing to do and you want to lose faith in humanity, just do a Google search for AI girlfriend
Who?
and you AI girlfriend.
Okay.
and you will lose your faith in humanity real fast
You know what I first thought of? Some
because it is a
purple.
thing. Uh,
I just thought of some purple pony creation, some weird alien thing. Or is it worse than that?
do yourself a disservice when you're bored and have nothing else to do and look into AI girlfriend, and you will become disgusted with humanity. Not disgusted, but you will become disappointed that it's come to this. It's that bad.
Because the main image is some sort of like creature alien thing. Like, you know how
Yeah.
manga comics,
Mm-hmm.
is it within that vein?
No, it's nothing like that. It's just sad.
Okay. See, I
It's
don't know what.
just
See,
cringeworthy and sad.
is it horrific?
No, it's nothing like that. It's nothing, nothing horror based or anything. It's just sad. It really is. It's sad. If you need a good if you need a good bout of depression, there's a way to get it.
No,
You
I don't
know.
want to. I don't want to see. I'm
But it
curious, but I don't want to see it.
but the podcast thing does not surprise me at all. It really doesn't. And you don't have to look far to see evidence of that. And that's what I mean by AI slop is watching totally AI generated shorts when you're doom scrolling YouTube shorts or reels on Facebook or just Instagram, you know, or TikTok or any of those. Tons of AI generated short videos that may be real, may not be real, that may be an AI script with some sad music or some peaceful music and a pretty sunset scene or something like that, quick and easy to generate, that's going to get you a couple of million views, and you can collect all kinds of bucks out there from AdSense or however the monetization goes. But it's all over the place now. So the fact that somebody came up with a podcast does not surprise me at all.
It was very surreal, Mark. Um,
Yeah, I bet.
at least the suggestion that was going on, all the key points that they were triggering. See, the problem is within that you have a video maker. Like, let's say me. I mean, I know you get the point, but let's say I decide to make a video about this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
um, AI podcast. I am now creating a narrative
Mm-hmm.
about a story,
Mm-hmm.
but I never include, and this is repeated in many videos, I never include the fact of the limitations of AI and kind of suggesting what's real and what's not real or what it's capable of, not capable of. That
Mm-hmm.
question is left in the ether so that people can imagine what they want over what AI is capable of currently, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in the mix of all this is the question over consciousness
Mm-hmm.
and what that is and what that is not. And it's vital question in some places like the philosophy group, although they're just, it was so sad, dude. It's just so um it's unfortunate in that consciousness is something to do, in a sense, in a very real sense, with organic living beings.
Well,
We
that's
don't know what it is because nobody knows what it is. We don't
yeah,
know.
you can't really. Yeah,
But we know that we're human, that we're alive. We know our creatures, the
I
birds,
think therefore I am. Yep.
we know that, and we know that a rock ain't that, and we
Well,
know. I mean,
and
we know a
that's
rock is.
self awareness. That's what I mean. That is self awareness.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and AI, as far as my ability to understand, isn't that.
no, it's just going to regurgitate whatever it was told to say.
It's just like
You
a
know.
TV. When
Mm-hmm.
you see images on a TV, it's understood
Mm-hmm.
that I'm looking at you. I know that you're. So I know that Mark Lindsay is real over there in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you hear.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's my expectation. I
Yeah.
know. I know.
Yeah, you think I'm real.
No, but now in today's world, but I know that the image that I'm seeing is here in front of me in this screen, transmitted through
Hmm.
ones and zeros. I understand that there's a linking thing that
Hmm.
allows me to see you over there.
Yeah.
I can distinguish between that I'm viewing you here, but you're actually way over there.
Hmm.
I get that, but AI doesn't.
No, yeah, that's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. Uh-oh, you got called out. Hold on, you joined a philosophy group? You know how many mental people will be in those?
Actually, I don't know how many, but I can tell you that it's unfortunate how many people are so full, either knowingly full of crap. In other words, honesty. Listen, honesty. Either full of crap or willfully or unbeknownst to them, unaware.
Or just interested in the automatic gainsay of anything you say?
Well,
You know,
because
if you
there's people that
take any concept you want, the concept of licorice flavor, is it good? Is it bad? Now that's not a deep philosophical discussion. It's 100% subjective. But if you take one position, there's a certain percentage of those people who are just going to take the opposing position, regardless of whether they truly like licorice or not.
most people that I saw over there, I can only speak for that, would say things like this: because the universe and the blah 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 and the world as we see and all humans and all people, and they would use these words that were inclusive of, in other words, they went so broad with their whatever point they were trying to make, that basically it allowed them to escape any critical um retort, because they're basically saying, here's a load of nothing
Mm-hmm.
that includes everything that I can possibly drag out, including the kitchen freaking sink. Um, and by doing that, what people do when people go broad instead of honing in on details, working your way towards it, nobody's detail. It's a process. But when
Mm-hmm.
people go broad and stay broad
Well,
and
they
don't
don't want to
want
be nailed down. They don't want to take a position.
exactly well,
Right.
I usually in depending will take a middle ground position because I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll and you could do that. That's fine. But but you're not going to make an argument about the universe and this and that, so that you're not, so you nobody can whittle it down at that point, because if you try to whittle, so this is what I saw over there, as opposed to going nuanced. Um and when I went and tried to be nuanced, a lot of people weren't having it. um they weren't having it because they don't want to be bogged down.
Yeah.
They don't want to
I-
be nailed down to a specific, because if you nail people down to specific, if you try to go down the rabbit hole and so under one topic, I don't know, pretzels. If you try to go down that line, I mean, it could be politics, whatever.
Mhm.
But if you go down the line of pretzels and you really hone it down,
Mhm.
the
Ah.
wiggle room is limiting.
Yeah, not
So
really. Are we talking soft pretzels or hard pretzels? Are we talking miniature pretzels? Are we talking big? Are we talking salted with mustard? What? I
well,
mean,
that's my point. It's limited
mhm.
in terms of, we're not talking about ice cream. It's
Well,
limited
but
in terms
I
of,
like pretzels on my ice cream. But then again, that's a side.
no, no, but but see what you're doing is kind of
What they were doing.
yeah, because here's the thing. If you can apply
Mhm.
so if you're gonna go, if you're gonna, so I'll just say it like this: it's true that on the corner of my house there's a canal.
Mhm.
It's true that there are countless canals across this country and the world. So you could open the discussion about other canals in order to divert the conversation as towards my canal. which
Yeah.
is the topic that we're talking about. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the point that I'm getting at. And people
Yeah.
will take and explode an
Yeah.
idea to avoid going down and really honing in to the point where, what do we agree on?
Yeah.
You and
Really.
I agree on X, Y, and Z.
Hmm.
Oh, we do? Okay, we can check that one off, right? And then the other person will say, well, yeah, I guess so, because we agree. Okay, and that's good because you're getting to a consensus according to your understanding, reason, and oh, you don't agree on this part?
Well,
No. I
yeah, because that other guy comes in and says, "Well, wait a minute, man. I lived in Egypt right next to a canal, and I don't have that problem."
right. So there'll always be leftover stuff people don't agree on.
Yeah.
But if you stay broad, the
Mhm.
universe, because the Milky Way, and this, you can talk about the Milky Way, but then
But
don't go over to, and this is what people,
well, they used to say there were canals on Mars, and we now know that that's a bunch of BS.
well, yeah, they're pulling from, so,
Yeah.
and this is what they did when I pushed on the AI subject in
Mhm.
in previous, because they could talk about AI, but I
Well,
couldn't.
when you told me that, the very first thing that popped into my mind was the conspiracy theorists. And when you say something that might lead in a direction away from the conspiracy theory, all of a sudden you're part of it.
Mhm.
If you don't believe this, then you're part of it.
Yeah,
Witness that guy who took um, those guys down to Antarctica,
yeah,
and they witnessed 24 hours of sunlight themselves right there, then came back and reported it. And then suddenly, well, you're a part of the conspiracy. They
yeah,
got you, they brainwashed you. So that sounds to me like that's what that group was full of.
yeah. It's a repetitive. So
Hmm.
look, and it's not like we all have. So I'm not saying. So how many blind spots can I count that I have? Endless ones. I
Yeah.
can only, and so that's the problem, that even though I can see these, let's call them weaknesses or lapse
But
in reasoning, even though I can see them,
you don't have to
it's
be a
not.
psychologist to see a cop out, you know.
Well, no, I know, but what I'm saying is to be fair as much as possible, because the point is not to win.
Hmm.
The point is that whatever you've arrived at
Hmm.
is reasoned, where the other person you're engaged in
Hmm.
understands it similar,
Yeah.
or discounts it and explains why, and you understand why it's not
Yeah.
acceptable, and so you then discount it yourself, and you're a better person as far as understanding, because now you've put that to the side.
Hmm.
um I could never say something. I'm tempted because I'm human. I could never say something like, because all humans, it would have to be an extraordinary thing, like all humans breathe air, like we've talked about in the past.
Hmm.
But if you say all humans blah blah blah, in order to corral all humans, or
Hmm.
all Native Americans, or like some stuff like that,
Hmm.
um I could never speak in that knowingly. I might screw up every now and then, perhaps, but it's wrong because it's not reasoned.
Hmm.
But these people did things like that. They
Yeah.
went broad. Everybody.
Overgeneralize. Well,
Yeah.
that way you don't have to take a stand. It's real easy to avoid pinning yourself down. All you have to do is generalize. And then, and that's half of what being a politician is. Say plus with the beginning of a sentence and minus at the end of the sentence so it doesn't add up to nothing. So that after a half an hour speech, you're left sitting there going, what did he just say? And you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And the
So,
problem with communication, so all these little things like AI,
mhm,
um, like the error installed in humans. Well, wait a
mhm,
second, Mark. If we have error, which we do, a lot of it, and even though, let's say, you, me, everybody here, and a million other people have different takes on things over a topic that
mhm,
might repair on average an error over,
Hmm.
I don't know, ice cream cones in the
Yeah,
1950s, whatever. Like in between us, we all have different variations that we've inputted into
sure.
the AI, or it's learned from us. Let's say,
Hmm.
um, where you might be slightly wrong because it wasn't caramel ice
Yeah,
cream, and me it was chocolate or peanuts or whatever. Between all of us, it kind of averages out, so it has the average whatnot.
yeah.
Um, all those variations that we have is part of being human. And
Well,
isn't it that AI will copy all our errors
it'll
to.
try, but it only can do that right now, as we sit right now. It can only do that if it's told to.
No, no, I'm saying, but
See,
if it's learning from humans, what I'm getting at is this: if it's learning from humans, it's gonna learn all the good stuff or correct stuff, along with all the lapse
yeah,
of.
and that's where you get things like saute the onions and garlic in gasoline. It's picked up on all the good and the bad and doesn't know how to separate it.
Wait
You
a
know?
second. Wait a second. How about when you and I are talking, and we've talked in the past, like in messages and whatnot,
Hmm.
and we talk about, dude, isn't it? I tell you, Mark, isn't it like sometimes uh, sarcasm? You've said it too. Isn't translated in writing necessarily.
Yes, absolutely.
How the hell?
It
Well,
doesn't. It
exactly.
doesn't know. It doesn't know. And that's what I mean. There is no self-awareness there. And that's why I was more confident that you could come up with a romantic ballad better than an AI could. It could do it faster, but without that experience of knowing what romance is, it's like trying to detect sarcasm or humor in text. It doesn't know what those things are. It doesn't know. It could tell you what emotions are based on the data that it's collected, but it's never experienced an emotion.
Right.
So it has no feeling, it has no depth. Kind of like modern music, you know. There's a reason we all connect with and we like the older music because we know there's humanity in there. Maybe this singer's a little bit sharp on this note. There's no pitch correction. Well, how do we know there's no pitch correction? Well, because it was done in 1972 before pitch correction was the thing. And this came out and has been online since before there was AI. So we know it hasn't been manipulated. And you can hear the humanity. I've owned this album since 1973. I know it's not pitch corrected. You know, we attach to that because it is human,
Could could
flaws and everything.
could they be upselling this mystic aspect of AI as a propaganda tool for, like, the wow factor
They
in the
could
popular.
be. I'm sure there are lots of reasons for it. There's hype to a money. Money is a prime motivator for a lot of this stuff. Um, but there are also people who are into it just because they're passionate about it and they want to push the envelope.
Because
I I
they could
could
package it.
probably sit down and write code, but I have no passion for it, so I damn sure don't want to do it for 10 hours.
They're packaging this,
Mhm.
broadly speaking, or a lot of people are, as slightly with this consciousness thing going on. I'm
Well,
not the only one that has heard it.
there's a lot of misconceptions about what it is and what it does and what it can do right now. There's a lot of misconceptions.
But maybe that's on purpose, because just the
Well, I think
same.
it's just I think it's just basic ignorance, and I don't mean that in a bad way because they just don't know. Unless you're really a super techie and you follow this stuff on a daily basis, which I am not, believe me.
No, neither am I.
But I
Any.
do kind of keep up with it, and when I hear about things and I see people are claiming this, I will go look into it and say, "Wow, did that really happen?" And, oh no, okay, somebody took this out of context and said,
That's
"All
another
right,"
question too.
you know. But because I am genuinely interested in the direction it's going. But I'll give you just a miniature, a little teeny tiny example. On my YouTube channel, I go out of my way to edit closed captions and make sure that those closed captions, those subtitles are correct. And when I'm saying it on camera, the title is appearing down at the bottom of the screen just to make it um, just to make it understandable for people who use those subtitles. And as it turns out, about 40% of my viewers use those subtitles. Well, I also found out that it's easy to use Google Translate to translate those titles into other languages. And so I do. It's 5 clicks of a mouse button per language. And I don't know how accurate they are, but I do get emails thanking me for that from people in France and people in Italy, people in Indonesia. Great. So evidently they're getting it and they understand. Just recently, YouTube has enabled automatic translations using an AI voice. And you can activate it or deactivate it. And that's per video when you upload a video. And I thought, well, that's actually pretty cool. But then a few of the channels that I follow, I told you a couple years ago, I got down this rabbit hole about people over in France rebuilding old medieval castles and what have you. And there are a couple of channels that I follow that are French, and I use the subtitles. They have activated these AI voices, and I don't like it. And I'm about ready to drop one channel that I've been following for a couple of years because it is annoying as hell, and there's no way for me to turn that off. I can't turn. All I can do is mute it and then turn on the closed captions, and hope like hell they have edited the closed captions.
So it might be a hindrance because translating in that fashion.
Well, I'll give you an example. I do know enough French to know that the word show means lime. And that's in reference to mortar, like limestone. Show is lime. Showed with a D is heat or warm. So when this AI voice, they're mixing up mortar and they say, we're mixing up the heat to go ahead and rebuild this wall. I know that AI got it wrong. It's not show. That heat is showed. So the AI got it wrong. And it's enough of a distraction. It happens often enough. There's enough mistakes within that that it drives me up a damn tree. Because as good as voice recognition software is, it cannot pick out each and every accent or each and every manner of speech. If you really want to understand how you speak, close caption yourself because you have to analyze what you're saying and put it in context as you're editing what has been typewritten out based
Let,
on
let,
what
let,
you've
let, let,
said.
let me add something to that.
Okay,
Well,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Because I get lazy with my speech sometimes. And where there should be a D, I'll kind of drop it,
Okay. Okay. Let me. I gotta add it now.
or an S, or an H, or a Y. Go ahead.
I get it. Well, I just. But I gotta add this.
Mm-hmm.
So this just makes me think. Of course, it's very different. Mark Lindsay talking English
Mm-hmm.
than Mark Lindsay writing out like what would be a paragraph short
Mm-hmm.
essay or book. Way different.
Mm-hmm.
You're using the same language, but when you speak,
Mm-hmm.
there's other dynamics involved in communication based on the fact that it's this living back and forth or dialogue
Mm-hmm.
occurring,
Right.
which is way different than a written out. So that creates problems because you don't speak like this linguist said. What was his name? The old liberal guy. I forget his name now. He's bearded now, but whatever. He said, and he said that people think that they speak English
Mm-hmm.
when and I totally like I can see what he's saying, but you're actually speaking English, but endless. Each person has an endless variation of that language, which is sort of their own language. Just using the foundations of that principal one. So certain, not even the way you enunciate different. It has to do with the overall. All the expressions that I'm using are not seen in the written, and so I'm
Right.
transmitting to you.
Hmm.
You understand
Right.
English.
We don't. Right. We don't write the way we speak. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if I just something as simple as my greeting, hey y'all, welcome to whatever, it will say hey y'all, but it doesn't really know what that means. And that kind of got me until I started paying attention on those translations because it did pick it up. In French, salut tout le monde, hello everybody. So it gets the idea, it understands the concept. Salut tout le monde, hello everybody. Um, German, hallo alle, hello everybody. Things like that. And I've learned hey y'all in several languages now. It's kind of funny. Anyway, my favorite is Turkish. Hey millet. I think it's great. Anyway, um, so it does understand the concepts, but the AI voice doesn't understand the concept. If I get a little bit lazy and I say car, or excuse me, carve in a sentence, it may miss that V and think I said car. I've seen that written. So I know AI is going to do it on the AI translation with my voice. So that was a long way to go to say I'm not going to use it. I have the ability, I have the option to turn that off on my channel, and I'm going to turn it off and keep going the way I've been. Not until it gets a hell of a lot better. Because I don't want my videos to be the distraction. I find other videos that do use the AI voice. And I'm fixing to drop one channel because it's just annoying as hell.
Yeah.
So,
At least for now, we can say that.
mhm.
Um, at least I'm going away from this conversation. One, doubling down on the concept of that tentatively,
Mhm.
that it's not there to the point of, the
Mhm.
Matrix Part 9, um, but with unknowns,
Yeah.
and walking away with the concept of, at least as far as I understand it, that it's the calculator.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds kind of rough to say it like that, but ones and zeros,
Well,
it's all.
that's
Um,
basically what it comes down to. And those ones and zeros can even be broken down to on and off,
mhm.
you know? So,
Which is an amazing thing in itself, but it's
yeah.
not. It's not this thing that we
Well,
perceive as consciousness.
there's a lot of misconceptions about what AI is currently, what's been attributed to it, what it can do, what it can't do. And I don't think there's any one expert that knows all. They can't even agree on a timeline of when they think they may be approaching AGI, artificial general intelligence. Some will say, well, we might hit it by the end of 2025, and others say, oh no, it's going to be 2040 at the earliest. We just can't get it that far. We can't get it that fast. We have, in many ways, they have already hit the wall on certain aspects. They can't seem to get past this one certain point, and they're going back to school and rethinking certain things because that large language learning that they're using right now is kind of getting close to the end of it's kind of like the programming languages when you start way back when with this language with basic and this and that and the other, they become obsolete when you hit that wall and can't progress any further. So some are starting to go in the other directions, who knows.
All right,
But
let's land this
yeah,
thing.
it's about time to land it. I'm talking in circles now.
No, no, we've
But But
It's
I
just
am gonna. I found that video how a YouTube prank killed Kim Jong Un's brother, and I'll post it over on the Trampled Underfoot podcast Facebook page as soon as we're done here.
okay. All right, guys. Listen, thanks for hanging out with us. We go live every Tuesday at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific Coast time, and we're also over on Facebook, and that's Trampled Underfoot Podcast on Facebook. And then we have a website by the same name. We're also sponsored by.
Oh man, made me turn everything off real quick. Get rid of that. Put this in Harneil Media. Look, you and me talking here. Just two neighbors hanging over the fence with a cup of coffee or a glass of iced tea. The beverage of your choice. I'm all about options. If you're even toying with the idea of a website, a web store, maybe you'd like a merch company, a print on demand service that will print t shirts, coffee cups, mouse pads, baseball caps, all kinds of different merch with your logo or your message on it. Do yourself a favor. Go down into the description of any video or live stream on this channel. Click that link to harneilmedia.com. You see it right there, right? It's right there. It's also down in the description of this live stream. Click on that link, get over there, click the contact us button, and give Steve a shout. He'll answer your questions, and maybe you guys can work something out. He's very reasonably priced. And pretty soon you'll be wondering how the heck he does everything he does for so cheap. 100% personalized service. And with Steve, you're dealing with Steve, not some nameless, faceless person in a call center somewhere you'll never talk to again. So, again, do yourself a favor. Go over to harneilmedia.com, hit that contact us link, and shoot Steve a message. That's Harneil Media, HARNEAL media.com, sponsor of TrampledUnderfootPodcast.com.
All right, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. It's a chilly one, at least somewhere up there, and it's kind of cold down here too. I don't know about out west, where Mark's at, but enjoy your week. Be safe. Do the things you love, and we'll catch you here next time. Peace.
Please.